Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments based on the scriptures of the scroll of the Lamb of God. The Ten Commandments written on tablets by the finger of the divine eternal Father. You children of the earth, promised before knowing a human life to fulfill in your simplicity feeling the highest morality that can be conceived, and to attend to your request, the Divine Father placed the Ten Commandments in human life. They represent and remind you on earth of the morality promised in the kingdom of heaven. You might be deceived by the fleeting comfort that money provides, thinking you had never studied my scriptures that could happen by failing to comply with the commandments in your daily life cannot be overlooked. Only the arrogant will come to know the power of God, which is first expressed through the living doctrines and then in nature. Every new law must be first thought and then executed. To do the positive will bring chaos to the world, as everyone will be deluded and many will take their own lives believing that the end of the world has come. No, children, there is not a such thing. What exists is the final judgment on a way life that is not in kingdom of heaven, that is not in my commandments, and that will be approved the human evolution. The commandments were given for everyone. They are the only ones that can unify the world. My divine commandments do not divide the world. Only the divine commandments could and still save the world from the weeping incarnation society that is approaching. First commandment: you should love your God and Creator above all the things, and your neighbors as yourself. Second commandment: you should not worship on any image, temple, or likenesses of any kind. Third commandment: you should not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not behold him in guiltiness who takes his name in vain. Fourth commandment: remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you should labor and do all your work, but the 7 days is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Fifth commandment: honor your father and your mother, so that your days might be prolonged in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Sixth commandment: you shall not kill. Seventh commandment: you shall not fornicate, you shall not commit adultery. Eighth commandment: you shall not steal. Ninth commandment: you shall not bear false witnesses against your neighbor, no lies. 10th commandment: you should not covet your neighbor's gods. Based on the Holy Scriptures, Exodus chapter 20, Deuteronomy chapter 5. The demanding days of the Creator bear the self-equality to degree unknown to you. This equality is represented in the Ten Commandments. Where did you get the word private? Nothing is private in the nature. The divine root gives and takes away, meaning that every divine commandments have been observing the actions of every human, him bring through the centuries. They are living words of God, who is everywhere in the highest morality that the human mind can imagine. Such morality is represented in my commandments. There is no other knowledge in this world that surpasses them. My divine commandment teach equality. Inequality that is respected will have made the earth paradise. The Creator is infinite and it represents in all the things, yet His commandments are the supreme because they emerge from His free will. The divine morality of my divine commandments was created so that universal communist government could arise on earth, one single government and one single God. Is there any other doctrine more humble than the which they share material things in common? The hour has come when all the power that is not on the eternal Father will fall by His first own law. With the measurement they use, they will measure. The measure is the commandment, and by the commandments they will fall. Right, Alpha and Omega. Lord, you blew the winds, and the sea is your child. Who is like you, O Lord? From the eternal to the eternity, you are the voice of God. Holy greetings. Proverbs 16 verses 3. Commit your words to the Lord, and your thoughts will be established. Philippians 4 verses 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Galatians chapter 6, 4-6. Let each one examine his own actions. This way he can be happy with himself without having to compare himself to anyone else, because each one must bear his own responsibility. What will come? Divine title 1521. Flying sources have the knowledge of living mathematics, the same mathematics that it was used in the Alpha and Omega sons in the reincarnation of the human spirit. The chair of mathematics participates in every creation of the thinking expansivity universe. Number possess the same thing that the thinking creatures possess. They possess numeral trinity, numeral celestial father, numeral universes, numeral galaxies, numeral birth, numeral cosmos, numeral planets, numeral molecules, numeral reincarnations, numeral destinies, flying sources of the numeral hierarchy, for it was the thought that everyone is equal in rights before God. He who did not believe himself in the living eternity came out of the living God, denied an entire universe of living numbers, because the himself requests in his own reincarnation the divine alliances with the numbers, what it's upon, which is also numeral, also denies those who deny below. He who denies the phases in divine judgment and entire infinity celestial course of the numbers. Telepathic scroll. Divine title. Constructions of the flying sources continue. The living number participates in the constructions of the flying sources. The living number participates in the constructions of the flying sources. The living number belongs to the divine mathematics of the microcosms called Kingdom of Heaven, and is mathematics which is the human life was created. The number of the living mathematics converse telepathically with the solar parents. Each solar father tries to influence the living numbers to spread his own solar philosophy through the universe, just as human individualities do. With their own beliefs and forms of faith, what it's above is equal to what's below. When the solar parents create the flying sources, what they do is impregnate their own solar individualities in the silver material of the ship. From the eyes of the solar fathers, magnetism rays come out. This visual ray is the same brightness as the human eyes possess. In the solar parents, this is the brightness that gives rise to the multiplication of trillions of signs, which their own solar vision, they penetrate microscopic dimensions of the matter. These dimensions are not perceived by human eyes or is magnifying instruments. The living number is everywhere in the universe, because everywhere there are the measurements and there is the geometries. The living number is attracted to a solar magnetism wave towards the place and constructions of the celestial ship. There are infinity armies of numbers which try to be chosen once to be divine solar will. Along with the living numbers, other infinite multitudes of the elements are also attracted, because the constructions of the light sources in the whole participates upon the whole. The everything upon everything reincarnates in a galaxy called a flying saucer. The numeral cherubs in the cherubs of the molecules, the cherubs of the cohesion, the cherubs of the materialization, the cherubs of the gravity, the atmospheric cherubs, the cherubs of the balance, the cherubs of the distances, the cherubs of the magnetism, the cherubs of the solar television, the cherubs of the densities, the instrumental cherubs, the cherubs of the molecule junctions, the cherub of the turning on the living planets, the cherubs of the observation, the geometry cherub, the cherub of the calculation, the cherubs of details, the cherubs of the reincarnations, the climatic cherub, the planetary cherub, the cherubs of the dimension, the galactic cherub, the philosophical cherub, the radiant cherub, the cherubs of love, the mental cherub, the cherubs of the virtues, the cherubs of the scriptures, the cherubs of the invisible, the cherubs of the visible, the suggestive cherub, the telepathic cherub, the cherubs of divine birth, the cherubs of gravities, the cosmic cherub, the cherubs of the imagination, the cherubs of the thought, the cherubs of the inertia, the cherubs of the philosophies, the cherubs of the colors, the cherubs of the flesh, the expansive cherubs, the cherubs of destiny, the cherubs of distance and essence, the cherubs of the speed, the cherubs of the disappearances, the cherubs of transformation, the cherubs of all the specialities that mind can imagine. The cherubs are the Alpha and Omega and the expansive thinking in the universe. Without the help of the divine cherub, nothing will exist. The creative birth of the solar parent is measured by loving ancestry, which they have over the cherubs. Divine Father Jehovah, what does cherub mean in the revelation psychology? The cherub son means wanting to become, because at every moment and infinitely cherubs are reincarnating. This happens with it instantaneously and invisible in each person's own thinking and the elements themselves, and the constructions of the flying saucers, like the one that you see, the numeral cherubs instantly made solar alliances with the molecules of the ship material, just as the human spirit did with the elements of the universe. To be able to know a planetary form of light, numbers participate in the crowds of numbers. This is how I see a Divine Father Jehovah. I see a group of them. Those groups are the numeral families. They come from the houses of the kingdom of heaven. Each number, according to its divine numerical hierarchy, constitutes a power in the kingdom. The numerical hierarchy has no end, not even themselves to know it. Only Divine Father knows it. The materialization of the numbers in solar calculations is a principle of the microscopic reincarnation. The living numbers fall into a deep sleep that it takes them inside the molecules. The molecules feel the same sensation as the human spirit feels in equality. When he asks to be reincarnated, the sensations of reincarnation, whether material or spiritual, are mutually reciprocal in the respective law. The living numbers upon being reincarnated is do so by asking for infinite experiences that they will carry out. The intermicroscopic dimension, the human spirit, new microscopic reincarnation when asked to be a self, atom, idea, germ, microscopic, planets. There remains one of Divine Father Jehovah, or the divine for all that it says, you must be humble to become great in the kingdom of heaven. Great in size and power, son. The living number, it is itself a cluster of geometry contained in the same herm and the numeral herm of the eternal expectation of the expansion. At the call of reincarnation, the living number feels a dream vibration and feels identified with the molecules of the ship galaxy. This is called in the kingdom of heaven dimension transfers. The limits of the numeral reincarnations of the molecule reincarnation is marked by the evolutionary power of the number of the molecule. In God's infinite creation, each one values himself. From oneself comes to the power become what one proposes. Nothing is given away in the lot of God. What is authentic before God is chosen by the creatures himself. He who was not honest himself limited himself in the power. In the molecular reincarnation between numbers and molecules, their alliances have common destiny. The number wants to know lots of the molecule, and the molecule wants to know lots of the number. Just like the human spirit is asking to know experience with the lots of discovery is some planetary nature. The request of big have a similarity in the request of the small. The living number strive its own numeral by philosophy to achieve expansion. The molecule does the same thing in the molecule philosophy. The free will of each struggles in the manifestation of sensation. Everything begins with the most microscopic unit of time. The living number, when expanding its reincarnation, creates a geometry whose limit will have the geometry of the shape. In the living number, there's a decision of calculation. In the molecule, there's a decision of hardness. One continues and the other stops. The contraction of the flying saucer is, speaking of this size, proportional to the interest of the progress of the unit of time. So numerical and molecular free will is proposed. The instantaneous is subordinated to the hierarchy in self-achieved. The living number chooses its geometric point of initiation. This point is a dimension in which number finds no limit to space. The molecule finds no limit to its own hardness. Both mutually penetrate into unknown infinity. The materialization is done in a parallel sense of their own desires for expansion. The living number and the molecule feel that they are molded and do not know what form of molding will be taken, because the reincarnation they ask to be tested in what they did not know, just as the human spirit asked to be tested in magnetism, influence, called forgiveness in the past. And it's a sensation that the experiences which constitute the test, living the numbers, and the born by inheritance. Calculations, molecules are born in the struggle of solidification. The living numbers ask for invisibility in the matter. The molecules ask for physical manifestation, each in their own lot of orders. The living numbers, upon joining the molecules, ask to believe in events that the molecules galaxy. The molecules made the same request when they asked to know the influence of the numbers on their own destinies. The construction of the fly saucers will be witnessed by the Tesla War on the solar television, known in the Divine Gospel of God as the Book of Light. The living numbers are magnetized in instantaneous principle within the molecules, and it's everything upon everything on reincarnation. A flying saucer and its construction gives rise to the infinity armies of cherubs. All imaginable psychologies, known and unknown, inherencies from the infinity of the universe, cherubs come to test reincarnation. The living things acquire its colossal shapes and sizes, and all lovingly subordinated to the Divine Father Jehovah. The living number, upon reincarnation and making a divine alliances with the molecules, penetrates the universes of microscopic dimension. The living number is a psychology that it when expanded, and it does it with a geometry sensibly in sense. The numerical calculation is on the struggle and possession, while the molecule is contemplative, and a lesson shall be carried away by the numerical step. The living number, when joined to the molecule, moves to the infinity hierarchies in the numeral molecules alliances. What happens there is a microscopic instance that it will be happening at other infinity points in the universe. The number molecule reincarnation is linked by the invisible course to other reincarnation that it has the same moment occur in other infinity places in the cosmos. The living number asks for in free will of the number to know lives that it does not know, just like the human spirit in asking to know human life, because it did not know it. The living, irrespective in lot, asks to know what it doesn't know. The living number, like the living molecules, ask for aliens to become flying saucers. They both do not know what the sensation of being flying saucers consists of it. What they ask for will be an instant materialization. All thought, the heavenly ships eternal, the chairs all disincarnated, because visibly and instantaneously reincarnation is this. Within the respective hierarchy of the chariot, this love is also fulfilled on the planet Earth. The renewal of the elements of the nature continues. There are waves of the penetrative waves. They come and go. They expand and contract. What happens on Earth will happen on infinity planets. That is why it was written, what it's above is equal to what's below. The living numbers and molecules of the universe constitute families of planets, suns, galaxies, cosmos. Every time they abandon what they ask for an instance, they find themselves again in their place of origin. The same lot fulfills the human spirit. This lot is represented in the test of life, the divine sacrament called baptism, which is based on the water, teaches that where the water molecule was created, the spirit was created in the same place. Baptism is to sanctify what it was done in such a place. And what the spirit did were divine alliances with the elements of the nature. This includes all about the all, includes what the eyes will see in the trials of light, and what the spirit will feel without seeing it. At the moment of every reincarnation, at any point of the universe, an infinity magnetism activities occurs through the solar course. What happens on the planet, suns, flying sources, galaxies of the universe has an impact on everything. When the living number and the molecules of the flying saucers are uniting, at the same time, this union or reincarnation is being written in all the infinity points in the whole open whole. Thus, no one in the universe is alone. The living universe and the molecule attract multitudes of their own fellow beings. The constructions of the flying sources get to rise to divine design that it will never have any limits, and the living number and the molecule will begin a galactic adventure through a microscopic heaven, which for them is a mysterious infinity. In the respective geometry sensation, no one is unique, only the Divine Father is. The microscopy has no limits as such, nor does it have the colossal himself. The molecule, in its divine alliances with the other cherub, will come to know the experiences of what the molecule feels. The equal living number, the sensations of both, the moment of reincarnation, will arrive within an unknown whole. The new magnetism is born among them, becoming a sensation, the sensitivity, and the nucleus of the flying sources has made all the cherubs feel a power which, in proportion to their own feelings of molecular cohesion, the molecule of all the cohesion in the universe is direct relationship with his own Trinity in us all over all. The living number is in relation to the infinity numerals that the Trinity is those who principle only the Father Jehovah knows. Molecule principles have in such infinite stories that one could say that the molecules that it was founded, it was given a moment will never be founded again. There are two laws in the universal law. The first is that everything in the free will asks to know so many infinity reincarnation. That is eternal realized in it. The second law is because the expansive thinking universe has no limit, no will ever had it. In a flying source, everything is done in relation to the divine solar birth. The mental powers of the solar planets have infinity hierarchies over solar power. What one particular celestial ship cannot do, the other does. The higher the hierarchy in the ship, the more instantaneous the materialization communication is. The metallic whole becomes density. When all imaginable degrees one sheet penetrates the other, and the immensity of the microscopic event unknown even becomes reality, giving a rise to a new and unknown dimensions. In a flying saucer, mental events occurs in which the solar magnetism of the solar parent penetrates the magnetism of matter. Everything is being subordinated to the greater magnetism. The irresistible becomes a divine verb of action. The living number has an infinity related to the miracle law. The divine solar mandate that makes the causes that has become a lived instance becomes a new destiny instantly. This means that in the laws of the flying sources, infinity principles of cause are surpassed. The living number of his own numerical psychology becomes and behaves according to the mood of the solar father. This is called in the solar science mental molecular coordination. In this lot of electrical vibration is born that its own lot of vibration and visibility generates the shift of magnetism. They are microscopic mental fibers that behave in the same way as a colossal sun behaves in the nature of the planet. I say, son, that you think about the divine pearl that it says, what it's above, it's equal to what's below. In flying saucers, this divine law is in full field. The suns follow one to another in the solar laws, imitating each other from the most microscopic to the most colossal. The physically lights that radiate from the suns geometrize and materialize the laws of the flying saucers. On a planet or trials such as Earth, the mental power of its own respective suns is disappeared and is not expressed. Because when the proto-light was requested, the light was fulfilled with more matter than spirit. In flying saucers, everything is done by conversing telepathically. The tasks inside in a flying saucer are silence, because telepathy, being mental, does not need material or physical expression. And despite what happens to the outside, it becomes a spoken word in the mind. Within the minds of all the solar fathers, these scenes are infinity colors because they have power to become saturated with the magnetism of the previous reincarnation. They transform these scenes of a present into sensational and colors corresponding to other presents, and they visualize the future. The latter is a direct relationship with the solar hierarchy on each solar parent. The most elevated, such as the solar firstborn, see the future as many worlds and suns as the human mind can imagine. The living number also is the highest power of the miracle hierarchy. What happens in the solar minds is a perfect equality whose balance is a direct relation to the number of reincarnations of the solar hierarchy it has had. The everything upon everything is the expansive thinking universe is integrated into the infinity hierarchies of the units, which include themselves within themselves in all forms of matters. I'm the Spirit, everything they thought and asked for. From the very moment they saw the universe, everything is cohesive in them. The advance of the fruits of all reincarnation is parallel to the same solar line of the Spirit Himself. That is to say, that every determination arising from all free will is geometry in his own sensations and being geometrized in the variable of every form of the uncertain future. The living number also ascends in its irrespective numeral geometry. Its own numeral equality and numeral quality is eternally related. All that is constitute eternal universes. The living number is in its own development through these numerous reincarnations, creates numerous destinies. His source of light is numerically inherent, just as the human spirit is inherent, divided between bad and good, because according to Noah in existence it was thought that the inherent is a source of light. Each planet in the universe of each celestial ship makes its own destiny. Everything abounding, everything comes out in self. This universal law was expressed by the Divine Father Jehovah in his divine prayer, which is one of the eldest one of humanity. You will earn your bread by the sweat of your brow. He wants to tell you that about the test of the light, that all merit to be authentic has to come from oneself. The authentic speak and express himself before God in his laws of the authenticity. Just like everything thinking in spirit and expresses himself in his laws of the spirit, no one less before God, neither the authentic or not the spirit that chosen to free will. The authentic microscopic sensation of mental calculation are expressed in a living number, numerous psychology varieties of the infinity degree, the religious limited of every microscopic mental idea. This is why no sensation that the spirit feels none is equal to the other, neither in its field nor in its limits. All times the spirit makes use of the mental calculations in which each of these ideas has a different numerical sensation. That is why at every moment the thinking creature does not feel the same sensation. The whole upon the whole is intimately and molecularly related. The living numbers that reincarnate in the flying saucers is the same that reincarnate in the human spirit. The being or place of the cosmos from which it emerged in the same principle, the place which the human creatures emerge. And it happened that the first principle or the first cause in everything created is left infinity beings. The thinking spirit, knowing that it has a place of origin, perpetuates himself by reincarnating, and is like pilgrim who, in a given moment, abandoned his home. He left the house of Jehovah, more he never forgets his own first home. In many flying saucers, the spirits see their place of origin, and they will promise each to other return to their place of origin with the same innocence which within they left. The living numbers behave according to what the Spirit teaches in the test of light, both above and below. That is to say, that the living number of the flying saucers and the infinity worlds impose numerical tests, just as the Spirit imposes a spiritual test oneself. The mental human creature behaves like an immense sound of living numbers, and is for 318 virtues. Every human thought that felt during the test of light 318 different vibrations. Therefore, together, they will realize the destiny of each one. The mental vibration of each one fulfills microscopic love and the microscopic sun. The living number made alliances with the sun spirit to learn for it, and every virtue that he did for the same purpose. This was to say the divine gospel of the Father Jehovah. The Ark of the Covenants, which is the kingdom of heaven, means materializations of fact. Alliances are necessary to discover the ways to life that are not known. Thus, everyone without exception asks for alliances within the elements of the nature. If there had been no alliances with the elements, no one will know them. The same cause each person feels in his own, and is also feel the elements in their laws of the elements. The difference between living in a flying saucer and living in an earth is that the flying saucer, one converses with the matter. They, the solar crew and the chairs of the matter, did not ask to be indifferent to each other. However, in the test of light, human spirit and the molecules in the elements ask to know each other's indifference. This indifference is alpha and omega of the test of the human life. This is the indifference that everyone asks for did not exist. The human creatures will not to have created either the intellect or philosophy that created Nothing that He created will be remain, because everything upon everything of the human life has to be a divine judgment upon all the things. The term upon all the things means that everything imaginable includes it. The living number in his own development of reincarnation contributes to philosophical numeral idea, while the mind of the human spirit is the solar mind of the crew, the member of flying saucers, contributes to what they want to be. The desire to become the more synthesized in the divine hierarchy of the cherub. The numeral cherub aspires to be perfect in his numeral philosophy, just as the human cherub aspires to be perfect in his spiritual philosophy. The living number learns in a parallel sense to all virtues, which also request aliences to perfect their respective philosophies. The parallel means eternity in your feeling. The parallel radiates combining at the beginning of the sensation and expanding into changing sense. The living number established a limit in sensation in the living number did not exist. Man will have no notion of the calculation of any measurement on his whole over the whole. It will be geometrically expansive and limitless. And he will know himself and others' psychology in his daily life. The living number teaches him at every moment that eternity has hierarchies of numbers, and this whole being is eternally subordinated to the infinity number. Because each future reincarnation that the spirit requests, it will have to resort to calculate measurements starting with himself, because he will ask for a measurement and the geometries for his own future body of flesh. The living number gives rise to the numeral numeral discussions, studies of the calculation, measurements of to be taken, judgment and hierarchies of proportions of everything that is derived from the mental calculation. The living number in the flying saucer learns solar science in innumerable dimensions. The living numbers meet any sciences that had already existed before, and is founded with the numbers of previous reincarnations that the solar parents had, and his numeral free will is be interested in entire numeral paths. Just as human beings are interested and every passionate about ancient civilizations, the living numbers is interested in numeral destiny, known as the only one God, and aspires to new image of the numerical likeliness of the God, because these images and the likenesses of the Divine Father Jehovah had no limits. In all the planets it is taught that God is infinity and beings infinity. His image and likeness has no limits. On every planet or child in which his creatures maintain, and they alone constitute the only image and the likenesses, such creatures have in strange way the limited infinity of God, do not enter in kingdom of heaven, and it's easier for those who put no limits on their God to enter in their place of origin. So that those who limited it can enter. The living number participating in the divine final judgment complains and accuses every spirit that it believes itself to be unique, an image and the likenesses in the divine judgments of God. The all upon all participates matter to speak in the slots of matter and spirit in his slots of spirit. The 318 virtues of the human think and speak in their respective laws of virtue. The molecules speak in his molecular laws. The poor is the poor laws. The idea is the lot of idea. Nothing that have led have been self during the trials of life. Absolutely nothing remains without this judgment. The living number in his free will, one numbers, is surprised that the spirit had the limit in the infinity powers of God. Thus, so that because no one asked the eternal to shrink, it is limited in power. The living number does not cease, moment by moment, to the influence of the spirit that tries to generate ideas. The numerical inspiration has numerical proof, and the Spirit owns revolutionary limit. This limit for him as darkness of the human spirit, the same event that the Spirit feels occur in every living number. And every event that the living number feels, it tries to convert into a number magnetism, just as the Spirit tries to influence with his own philosophy of thinking. The bands of the trial of light, the living numbers, feeling at the Spirit feels, is also revolutionary number. Every revolution is coming from everything and the creature in a sudden and numerical determination to what's numerically accustomed, because every custom is a numerical influence that carries within himself in the degree of the influence. In the crew of the flying saucers, the philosophy, the psychology of the revolution has a normal psychology, because they are accustomed to witnessing the planetary revolutions of the universe. They know and have always known that planet Earth will create a strange and unknown system of life, which is strange laws will be included in equality. Anything that is not asked for and is not written in the kingdom is called and strange in the kingdom of heaven. The life of system on earth, coming out of the strange laws of God, no one asking for it. Not even the so-called rich who emerge during the trial of life ask for it. Not even the kingdom of heaven is owned, because nothing unjust is asked to God, nor does anything unjust exist in the kingdom of heaven. The crew of the flying saucers knowing just everything in the past world and exposes to its creatures falling into an unbalanced life system, in which a few enjoy greatest abundance and the majority or less abundance. They know that the small group of the humans beings enjoy the three-quarters of the total abundance of the planet, and the rest of humanity is struggling in a room. This room is indicated in the divine gospel of the Father Jehovah as the angle of Christ. In divine revelation, it is Omega circle divided by 4. Omega circle means total judgment, and the crew of the flying saucer know that the many spirits ask the divine Father Jehovah to reincarnate or progress on earth. The revolutionaries are prophets in the kingdom of heaven who ask and promise God to change the strange and unknown system of light on distant planets or trials of light, and the crew members of the flying saucers, known as the virtue of the spiritual free will, some ask to be biblical prophets and others non-biblical prophets. Everything imaginable that one wishes to live in a distant planetary abundance asked for of God. The non-biblical prophets prefer to take the spirit directly from the light. They are prophets of the laws of light, and the solar crew know that it is here for those who were revolutionaries in the strange system of light, not written in the kingdom of the heaven, to enter in the kingdom of heaven, so that those who did nothing to the world to legalize inequality can enter in the solar fastest, know and the strange system of light. Arising from the strange love of God does not reach the year 2000, because divine judgment surprised them. The living numbers marks the end of the test of light, and is beginning to fall on a strange world that arose from the strange laws of God. And the crew members of the flying saucers prepare to participate in this divine judgment. They are infinitely accustomed to participating in divine judgments of the eternal. On the earth, on the ancient world, they participated in other judgment among those who were on the Sodom and Gomorrah, that there were two cities that were corrupted, just as the present creators of the strange and unknown systems of light arising from the strange love of God were corrupted. The living number that I was asked for alliances with the flying saucers also asked for divine alliances with the events of the divine last judgment. In every act of every individual or collective judgment, there is the living number. The mental calculation of everything that was done in the test of light is judged before the numeral bird.
All divine judgment is an infinity numerical measurement that no one individuality did. The other individuality did not. For everyone, there was mass and number of the infinity justice in proportion that one the Spirit did. Between good and evil, the more vaguely the Spirit practiced in the shaft of light, the more it divided and it worked its number of justice. And it's by this law that it was written. Only Satan divides and divides himself, which means that during the trials of light, Satan took the form of the strange system of light, and having taken it, he creates laws in which he includes the strange inequality and forces everyone to live it. The creators and sustainers of such a strange and unequal system of life forgot that they themselves asked God for equality. The test of life was not to forget it. The crew of the celestial ships they know that this is a strange Babylon in space second by second, molecule by molecule, atom by atom, cell by cell, idea by idea. They know that this is because the human creature asked for a divine judgment within the turn upon all the things. This turn derived from the human free wills, included that even the most microscopic and the mind can imagine, and included that it was felt and seen, and what is not seen and felt, includes what the eye saw and what they not seen, includes what is inside and what is outside, and it includes the whole upon the whole itself of the nature. The living number intervenes in all judgment, and its intervention is both in the light and the darkness, because all psychologists that the human spirit tried, in all of them is asked to be helped to the living number. Those who with their forms of faith during the trial of light did not include the limited to God, have in the living number their best advocate after firstborn solar son Christ. Their best advocate after the firstborn solar son Christ. The living number admits no limits to what of God. To admit that is to make himself as innumerable psychology and smaller and divided. This love of divine final judgment will take and make millions of beings cry, who in their forms of faith consistently puts limits to every divine power of God. The test of light was not to belittle him. When reincarnation or being born again was received, no thinking spirit thought that even remotely that we, while receiving life or taking away power from the one who gave it a life. The living numbers and the flying saucers learns from the infinity other elements, while the ships in their infinity journeys entered and lived infinity presence in infinity planets and suns, and its infinity constant among the two travel from dawn to dusk, from galaxy to galaxy, from the microcosm to the microcosm, the living in a certain star point, upon their return they find no one, because they also left to the other infinity ends of the universe. The Solar Father represents, after the Divine Father Jehovah, one of the most glorious hierarchies of power in the kingdom of heaven. The solar is everywhere, and the living number among them, because the divine hierarchy of the numeral firstborn sons is each particle of the all thinking and the entire expansive thinking universe already had its own infinity. There were already others like them, and the others them. They had others them, and so, and as far as the mind can imagine, everyone is born looking for a limited to the universe, and it has never found it, nor will ever find it. The living number, as infinity universe himself, in his free will of the number, not even he knows where his ends, nor does not the molecule know it. Everything about the everything does not know either. Only the Divine Father, Jehovah, knows it. After the divine creators of all the things There is a kingdom of heaven which is the same macrocosm where nothing has limits, beings able to know the future of all the things in natural in every solar father. This power is not equal in all the father children. It is proportional to the divine solar birth of each one. The greater the solar antiquity, the greater the prophecy of power it has. The living numbers also participate in the prophecy. Without his divine participation, not even the future will have the date or place or event. There will be no relationship between initiation time and the one idea within the initiation time of the next idea. There will be events outside the request time in reincarnation. There were forms of light in which time stops, slows down, disappears, transforms, becomes invisible, becomes smaller, becomes color, etc., etc. The living numbers also makes alliances with the living time. All planetary time is speed and expressing himself before God in his laws of time. The living number materializes according to his will of numbers. This divine power of numbers is infinitely proportional to their inheritance of the numbers births, and they become numeric solar parents of the infinity solar varieties. Living time fulfilling the same law in the whole upon the whole. Starting from microscopic molecule becomes a colossal sun of the infinity that terminates wisdom. Right, Alpha and Omega. For more about the scrolls of the Lamb, feel free to visit our website at telepathicreading.com, where you can find many scrolls of the Lamb and divine actions that inviting you to learn and know your Creator. Thank you for your attention.